funny. Jeff started texting me last night. He had a bris here. Said he was expecting you to come. So random. But,
Okay.
Yeah, but he had, I don't get his kid or he had a grandson. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Papa Shran.
Okay.
Samach Gimel.
Samach Gimel. You might ask if you're paying attention. We skipped one.
Oh.
Take a look at Samach Beis. If you read the first two lines, maybe it'll jog your memory. Alright, I don't care. I'm skipping it.
Oh, I like it.
We did it. Remember, Samach Beis was part of the manifesting series.
Sucked bad.
There was a few of those. So we jumped to Samach Beis, so we don't need to do it again. Or we do.
I think we do.
We do. But I'll send you the recordings of the old ones. Okay, so let's go to Samach Gimel. Let's read through a little bit of the beginning here. So Nachman says, B'chol Medina Medina yesh davar shechashuv ba'osa Medina. In every Medina, in every place, there's something that's chashuv. Each Medina has that which is chashuv, is important, is true. V'tekif kishamaschil osa hadavar. And immediately, when that thing comes to be, that chashuv thing, as it comes, settles into the world, now it could be an idea, it could be an object, I don't know, it could be a technology. You're right, Rabbi Nachman doesn't say, it's very vague, he just says, yesh davar shechashuv. There's something that's important. Right? It could be anything, an idea. Yesh bo tov v'ra. Right, when it comes in, there's tov and there's ra. V'hatov, says Rabbi Nachman, and the good hu ma'at. And the good that is coming out of this davar chashuv is very little. V'hara, now what would you want him to say the next word should be? The ra is the majority. It's a lot. It's harbe. Look what he says. Again, the tov is ma'at. V'hara hu shove mamish b'chol hatanuos el hatov. The ra is equal mamish to all the movements of the tov. Just a soft read in the beginning. What does that mean? And the ra is equal to all the movements of the tov. Okay? Why? So it will not be recognizable between the tov and the ra. So who's doing that? The Medina's doing that? What are they talking about? Right there. But this thing goes and it's chashiv ad hasof. There's chashivas here, even though he just said it's ra. Right? It's chashiv ad hasof, but there's more ra here than tov, and even the tov is covered over seemingly by the tenuos of the ra. Kigon, he says, b'medina zu, he brings an example, we're going to get into it in a little bit. Kigon b'medina zu chashiv bal shem. In this Medina, there's importance to a Baal Shem. A Baal Shem is the name of a Baal Mofes, a miracle worker. Right? We have a lot of stories in our history, especially from the Baal Shem Tov and forward for a certain period of time, where they did Mofsim. And in this Medina, it's an inyan of Chashivus, a Baal Shem. Ube'emes, says Rabbi Nachman, be'emes, truth is, Hayukam Bali Shemas Amitim, Tzadikim. There are many Bali Mosim, there are tzaddikim who can perform certain miracles, wonders. But va'ata, and now, nisrabu harbe Bali Shema Shashek. But now there's been a riboy, a majority, an overpouring of fakers, imposters, liars. That's what Nachman says. Solid first paragraph. What do you guys think? Make sense? Clear? Right there? Every line he says, if we don't try to take it apart, I don't know how much we could get. He was so sussum, but every word he says it means so much. Okay, so let's first try to understand this first paragraph, and I'll go back in. So b'chol Medina yesh davar shechashiv. Yeah, in every Medina there's a davar chashiv, but immediately when it comes into reality, it sounds like, and if anybody wants to jump in and explain it any other way, I'm all ears. So jump in. The tekiv kishamaschil, immediately when this thing starts, also adavar yeshbo tover. So maybe, always b'derech hesher, everything that comes into the world, everything, has to have a root of emes. Nothing could come into the world without any emes, any truth. All fake wisdom has to stem from a little bit of true wisdom. Every joke has a little bit of truth to it. It has to. The Meraglim come and they say, the land is scary. But what do they start off? The land is a big fruit. But it's really, really scary. Everything has to start with emes, because anything that comes into the world can only come from one place ultimately, which is Kadosh Baruch Hu. There's nothing's above him. Nobody runs the Borei Olam, the creator of the world and creating of the Hashgacha Pratis of every single moment, every single thing that comes into the world. So anything that comes into the world, Davar Chashuv, even if it's by a Medina, even if it's by, let's say, Goyim. The problem is, the second it comes into the world, it already gets tainted. Yesh bo tovara. But emes, everything in the world comes from the Eitz Chaim. But because Adam Rishon sinned and ate from the Eitz Hadas, tovara, the moment that the thing comes into the world, which was created true, pure, pristine, the second it enters into the world, and the atmosphere, our atmosphere has been tainted ever since Adam ate. Therefore, the second it hits the atmosphere, it's around for a moment, but then it hits a world of Eitz Hadas tovara. So now we have a big mixture. Nothing could come in. What?
Sounds like it's talking about us.
It's when it says every Medina has a davar chashuv to Medina. He's going to bring an example of a Baal Shem, like a person.
No, right. Is it talking about like the Medina being a person?
No, I think I
That
you could say different ways, but it sounds like it could be a philosophy, it could be a type of technology, it could be anything.
No, I'm saying, no, not a type of person. Yeah, I'm saying that the Medina is a type of person. So everybody has a Torah.
Well, of course.
I'm saying, but like, that it's referring to the person. If you have something, everybody has something.
Of course, but that's not what he's referring to. We take from Rabbi Nachman says Bechlal, and then we always bring it into the Prat. But he does mean Bechlal. And Bechlal, every Medina, even Goyim, there is a Tov. Everything has to come from Tov. Everything has to come from Emes. But the second it hits the atmosphere, it hits the Eitz Hadas Tovara. And depending on the Kalim that the people are using, right, that's where the flow of Emes is going to go. Now, if you have, let's say, Goyim, let's say the nations of the world, that their Kalim are based on selfishness. Now, this could be a person also. It could be talking about ourselves as well, like you're saying. If your Kalim are basically selfish interests, tivus, right, desires, ego, so the second the idea comes into your head or into this Medina, for some goodness, immediately starts to flow through these dirty Kalim, where there's Tov and there's Ra. Right? There's going to be a mixture. The Tov is going to be there, but it's covered. We discussed this many times where you put, well, here's the opposite. Last time we spoke about a dirty cup with clean water, right? So the water looks dirty. Well, no, that's the same thing. That's actually the same mashal. Right? You have good clean water, and you're putting it into a dirty cup. So the water is not mamish dirty, right? But it looks dirty. However, we're talking about here where the kalim are dirty on the inside as well. Right? So therefore the water does get dirty. Even though it started as pure water, gewalt. But when it hits the keli of this world, das, tovara, and the person and the world and the people are mixtures of ego and taiva and kina and gaiva, all this stuff. The good idea, the good philosophy, the good invention, whatever it was a tov, quickly is going to hit ra. The tekiv kishemas chaloso adavar yesh bo tovara. Right? There's many ideas, philosophies, isms, many of them start by Jews, of course, that started from an akuda tova. It started from true wisdom. I don't even want to start mentioning different things because I'm an expert in them, and if anybody starts to ask me about them, I will fold very quickly. But the Yesod is true. Any ism philosophy had to start from a davar emes. Now, this just happens to be parenthetically. This is similar in a certain way. I just want to make a dimion, if it'll help. I'm not sure if it will. To Sichos Samech Aleph, when we mentioned about the Evan Shasiya, right? That's the root of all materialism in this world, all physicality, and then it has the branches that spread out everywhere. And Rabbi Nachman says, if you know how to plant, right, you could plant anywhere. You can plant esrogam even in New York. Remember that, right? Because the emes is the emes Shasiya, that the emes spreads out, just depending if you know how to chop it. So here, the truth is the wisdom, the emes, the truth, can go, as Rabbi Nachman is going to say, the chashav ad hasof. The Panemius Hadavar is always true. It's just that the keli, the vessels on top, are not used properly. They're misused. So he goes, he says, V'hatovu ma'at. Remember this? Look inside. V'hatovu ma'at. The tov is very little, right? Why is it very little? Because again, the tov comes in as 1%, and then right away, all the bad, dirty kelim chop it up. The ra of the itadas tov v'ra. Right? We're talking about the Medinas. By Yid, maybe the percentages are a little bit different, but v'hatov umat. And not only that, he says, v'harahu shovim mamish b'chol hatunos hatov. So not only does the tov get swallowed up by the ra, and there's kemat no tov that's recognizable, but even that tov, the ra is shovim mamish b'chol hatunos hatov. What does that mean? Maybe. Even that 1% good, the ra covers over it like a klipa. It mimics it. So even that 1% that's good, the ra covers over it like a klipa and taints it. So even if a person is doing a good action, which started as good, let's just say, but in their intent, it's not good. You have a person who wants to build just as an example, I don't know history at all, but a person wants to build a community where everyone's equal. We'll leave names out. Everybody's equal. Kulam Kedoshim. Korach, right? Kulam Kedoshim. B'sochem Hashem. Madu Tisnasu Akal Hashem, right? Korach had a great idea. We all saw God. We're all holy. So we should all just live in one socialist community, right? We could all just be the same. So on the outside, you know what? It's not a bad idea. We should all be equal, we'll all be friends. We always talk about achdus. We should love each other. This seems to be the way out, or the way in. But yet, what do we know about Korach? His intent was selfish. His intent was Avgaiva. His intent was just because of his jealousy. So the Ra covers over the Tov, mimics it. It mimics the outer manifestation. Let's make everybody happy. Let's do Achdus, socialist community. But it's Ra, because the intent, we know that Korach wanted everything for himself ultimately. Yeah, we're going to make a socialist community, but I'll be the head, obviously, right? Yes. Right? Like, you'll all be equal. Everybody will be happy, but I'll be the head of the equality movement. So even in that 1% of Tov, the Ra covers over. Now, you'll say, that's not fair. Come on. Already the Tov that comes into the world gets swallowed up by the Ra. You barely have any Tov left. And not only that, but the Ra has to cover over that 1%. And be an imposter. And trick people. Make demionos, imagination. How's that even fair? What do you think?
Life isn't fair.
That's one way to look at it. If we would understand that 1% is so powerful, and if a person could connect to that 1% Tov, all the Ra would get obliterated, it's not even fair for the Ra. Because Tov and Ra, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And if you have 1% emes lamito, right, a little bit of light, says the Alter Rebbe, a little bit of light dispels a world of darkness. So if there's 1% light, that light can shine and blow away all the Ra. So for it to be fair, for it to be, what's the line? For it to be nicker, right? We don't want it to be nicker bein tov or bein ra. Because in this world, nisyonos have to be fair. If a Kadosh Baruch Hu would reveal himself and we would see him, then there's no nisyonos, there's no bechira, there's no schar va'onesh. What's the point? The whole game is rigged. You see God. So it has to be in this world that is an equal playing field. And generally, Tov is so much more powerful than Ra, even though in our eyes it looks like how bad Ra is, and Ra is so much more exciting. But that's only because the Kadosh Baruch Hu had to put so much on the side of Ra. This is the union with Paro a little bit, right? Why did Kadosh Baruch Hu have to harden his heart? Sounds like it's unfair. Hashem takes away Paro's Bechira. It's not fair. I thought we have Bechira. So I think the Michtav Melio and others explain. When Kadosh Baruch Hu revealed the Makos, it was a blinding light of Emes. Now that's not fair to Paro. Paro really wants to be Ra. Paro really wants to be bad. But if a Kadosh Baruch Hu reveals himself, it's not fair to Paro because then okay, Kadosh Baruch Hu, I give in. Paro, but Etzim was Ra. So Kadosh Baruch Hu had to give him more power in his side of Ra because that's what he wanted. So he hardened his heart to balance out the playing field. So even in the 1% Tov, HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows the Ra, the Klippa, to mimic, mamash like a klipa, to cover over, and to mimic, to be an imposter, to be a dimion of the tov, in order that it's not nicker bein tov bein ra. So it's not clear. You still need a bechira, because if it was nicker tov over ra, you'd always choose the tov. But this world is not so clear. V'oso hadavar holich v'chashav arasof, and that davar is chashav arasof, because the panemius of tov, that 1% tov, it doesn't go away. It can never go away. Even though the rock covers over it, the panemius is still always there. V'oso hadavar holich v'chashav arasof, never goes away. That's why in any ra, if a person would take the time to peel away at the layers and peel away at the layers, you will find tov in that place. It could be that it's so tainted and there's so many klippas, it's not kedai to deal with. But there is tov in everything. Right? Even in a Russia, Rabbi Nachman says, there's an Nakuda Tova. It's the same in, you know? You have a Russia, he's 99% a Russia, but he has one Nakuda Tova, and that's why he's still alive. That doesn't mean you befriend him, but it means you notice that he has a Nakuda Tova. At least notice he has a Nakuda Tova. Yeah, he has a lot of Rishas too. Right? And that has to be dealt with. Don't allow the Ra to cover over the Nakuda Tova so you can't even see it. Because you don't know, says Rabbi Nachman Reish Pei Beis, says I don't know. You don't know what could happen if you, again, not ignoring the Ra. You have to know how to do this properly. Don't engage in the Ra, but you don't totally destroy it or ignore it. But if you see the Tov that there is at least, that can bring that person to tshuva. Possible. If you only see the Ra in the guy, he's got no chance at all. Now, sometimes people need the death penalty. That's true. And we're not talking about those people. But there's people who are, we'll leave the names, they're bad guys. But they're still good to them. They still give tzedakah. They still do learn a little. They still do daven. Like, there is good. If we focus on that, you potentially could bring them out. Because, again, v'oso hadavar, that nekuda tova, that chachma, that emes, holech v'chashav arasof. So this Jew has a neshama. This philosophy has a neshama. Again, it could be it's too tainted, we can't deal with it. But at least know the truth. Don't get tricked by the Ra and start engaging in it in an inappropriate way either. We're going to get back to that with the Baal Shem. We have to be very careful. Because when an imposter is mimicking Tov, Korach, people can get tricked. Because it looks good, but it ain't good. And that's a very dangerous, very, very dangerous Koach of the Ra. So be very careful. Now he goes and he says, "Kigon b'medina zu chashav Baal Shem," right? Because we have these Baal Shem. Ube'emes hayukama baalei shemas amitim and tzadikim, and there are many of these. He's giving an example of that which starts as Tov. We have many Bali Mofes. That's true. There's tzadikim. But now, as it's going through the Kalim, more people are getting involved. People are starting to see What can happen if you're a Baal Mofis? Covered, money. So now, less than Tzadikim are trying to become Bali Mofis, Bali Shem. Vatin is Rabbi Harbi Bali Shem Shel Sheker. Now you have a lot of imposters trying to mimic the Tzadikim. They put on a white beard, they take a cane, a long coat, they sit in a shakel in the base medrash, saying Tehillim all day. Look at this tzaddik, look at this guy. You know nothing about him, but what he looks like. Right? That's where the Ra is mimicking the tenuos, the movements of the Tov. Right? That's a mimic. He has a beard, he's got a shtreimel, he's got a cane, he's got big payas, he's got a long bekisha, and he has a tehillim. Does that tell me about his soul at all? Zero. Now, I'm not saying don't trust the person, but don't judge him at all right now. He's mimicking something that looks good in a behavior. Lav Davka. Happens to be Baal Shem. What's the Gematriyah of Baal Shem? Baal is 102 and Shem is 340, so it's 442. Correct? Emes is 441. So I was saying it's a cute thing. Emes is 441, so you could have the kolo, right? The word itself can be one. So either Baal Shem is equals Emes, because it's 441 plus the kolo, Emes plus the kolo, or it's Emes plus 1, meaning the imposter. So the Baal Shem could either be Emes, or it could be Emes with an imposter, which means the whole thing is Sheker. The whole thing, 441 is Emes, so it looks Emestic, but there is one inside it's the whole thing is Sheker. It's a cute little Emes, and go either way. Now weiter, Klal, the rules like this. Anybody who wants to enter in and to do and get involved with that dover that's chashav in that medina, right? That thing that came into the world that seems to be true, yet it may or may not have gotten tainted very quickly, because again, we're in the world of Eitz Das Tovara. You have to be mavar everything. That's why a person, not parenthetically, has to work on the sugya called das. How do you do that? Not for now. Just know as a yesod. If you haven't worked on das, you might not have it. If you don't have it, you might be choosing ra. If this world is a world of Eitz Das Tov Ra, how do you make the right choices? There's Vaday Tov, there's Vaday Ra, correct? Well, how do you know you made the right choice? No, I know. How do you know? You don't know. You could be the guy with the cane and the shtreimel and the white beard. And you just want everybody to look at you davening in the back. You don't know if you're emesdik or not. So you have to work in the sugi called das. Right? Das Torah. Right? That's the thing in Das Torah, that they have a certain understanding of the world. We need to work on das. It's not a simple sugya, but the beginning is to know that you don't know. That's the beginning of das. Tachlis hayediyah, das, asher lo neda, that you don't know. What I know is that there's Tov and Ra in this world. What I don't know right now in the beginning is what the Tov looks like, what the Ra looks like. Right? Maybe the Tov is liberal, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not clear anymore. Nothing's clear. Nothing means anything anymore. I'll go upon him. You need das to be able to mevarer the Eitz Das. Okay? So stick with somebody with das. Like a real tzaddik. I'll go upon him. I'm not trying to make a person doubtful. That's not the point. The person is supposed to be, there's a better word for it, be aware. Zohir, mindful. Be zohir, be careful. Not to be doubtful that maybe I'm a big chakra and I don't know it. You could think that way, but I don't want to make anybody depressed here. But a person has to be aware. Maybe I'm not doing the emes right now. Maybe my motivation here is not the best. Maybe the way I deal with myself, maybe deal with ruchnis, maybe the way I deal with my kids and my wife. Maybe I'm wrong. Very often we don't think we're wrong at all. But I've had situations where I didn't think I was wrong, and I found that I was 100% wrong. I went from 100% right to 100% wrong, and that opened me up to realizing, lav dafka, maybe Never think you're 100% right, because maybe you're wrong. At least make it 99% to 1. At least give there a possibility. Because once you're 100%, then you might be 100% wrong, and you'll never know. And that's dangerous. Okay. And the fake parentheses, because it wasn't really parentheses, it was really part of the Torah here. So again, the klal is, he says, anybody who wants to enter in and to deal with this chashav inyan in the Medina, kegon, the Baal Shem, ben Dinazu, you want to deal with this person, this philosophy, this ism, this technology. I'm sorry. If a person himself wants to enter into it and become the Baal Shem, right? Not if we want to go, I think. Not if we want to go and see a Makobel. Meaning, if you want to be the Makobel, it's possible that he will be successful in doing it. Afshu sheker, even though he's a shakran. Why? Why? No, but why would he be successful? Because if the emes is that there are Baalei Shem who are real and they act in a certain way, so now there's a belief in the world that there's something called the Baal Shem. And he does a kamiyah, and he does a mofes, and he does a this, and a few this, with a few dollars for the Rebbe, and a kvittel, even though the Arts Tzaddikim really know how to read a kvittel. But there's a lot of them who don't know how to read a kvittel. But since there is that in the world that's true, then you're going to prey on those who don't know so much, and you could pretend that you know how to read a kvittel. Come. Oh, it looks like a kvittel. That it's going to be sunny tomorrow. And that's sunny. You're like, oh, look at me. He's like, oh, it's sunny. I just need another $5,000, please. Have another deposit. You could pray off the emes in the world. The emes says there's a Baal Shem. So you can now pretend to be a Baal Shem, even though you're a shakran. He doesn't know anything. It all depends on his iris. How much of an actor is he? I think that's what Rabbi Nachman means. How much he can pretend. How much he can be in the part. Right? If you're gonna be a Baal Shem, you have to have the cane and the white beard. You can't be clean shaven and no hat and a shlumpy shirt and say, oh, I could read Kameas, I could read your palm. You got to play the part. You got to look like a tzaddik. But Taka can trick people. And if you think they're not walking around nowadays, they are walking around nowadays. And in many different ways. He says it also depends, though. It depends on how tricky the guy is, how much of an actor is he. Because it also depends on the place that he tries to be an imposter. If he starts in a place where people believe in the Baal Shem, or he starts with Nashim, right? Convincing the women that he's a Baal Shem because they're more easily convinced. Daitin Kalas doesn't mean a bad thing. It just means that they are able to be manipulated more than men are because men are Bali Gaiva, which is not a good thing, but it also protects them certain times. I'm just trying to not make it look so bad. Because it's not so bad. I'm trying, that's the emes is. But if he starts with people in general who are believers, or with women, women generally believe things more than men, as matzliach, he could be matzliach. Right? He's going to start getting a whole following of people who believe in him. Sounds like Yashka, no? No, this actually sounds like Yashka, right? And then after time, he can get even those people who are far from believing in Bali Shem, who generally say, I don't believe in this, but now this guy's got a whole following. So then you start to believe in what everybody else believes in. It's very dangerous. Do you believe in the Baal Mofes, or are you believing in the people? Now, when you start believing in the people, now you're in big trouble. Because the large majority of people, they roll in flocks and herds, like little sheep who just follow after the other sheep, who follows after the other sheep. Yeah, I heard that restaurant's kosher. I heard the restaurant. You find out the whole thing is it's not kosher at all. Because one guy said, I thought it was kosher. So the other person says, oh, I heard it's kosher. The guy said, oh, it's kosher. Oh, it's not kosher. When the whole thing started, it's broken telephone. When the whole thing started, it was mamish, not kosher at all. First person didn't really look into it. And everybody started to believe that guy. And then you have a whole world that says it's kosher. There's no sign on the store, nothing. But there's a shmua now. It's like Minhag Yisrael Torah. Like we became a Minhag Yisrael, this place is kosher, when it's actually never was, never will be. But people were lazy in certain ways, and we don't do the das ourselves. Right? To have das, to be mavar, eight das tovara, you need to have your own das. You trust in that guy? How does that guy have das? Yeah, I mean, he's a smart guy. Mistoma, he looked into it.
Like there's times when you see a rabbi sitting and eating somewhere, you're like, oh, it must be kosher, just in your mind. Like, you know, if he looks like, you know, with a big beard and everything in the candy, you're like, oh, probably kosher.
Yes, except that he's actually a guy. He just has a big beard and a cane. He just thought he was Jewish. Oh, you thought that was the yarmulke on his head. It wasn't a yarmulke on his head. Be very careful. So he says, what happens if he starts in a place where they make fun of him, they ridicule him? Balmofis, what is this Narshkat anyway? He says, however, so you think that he's gone. But if he starts in a place, or he goes to another place, and he starts to gather the followers, so this guy gets kicked out of town, and he's like, okay, what do you, Balmofis, we don't believe in that stuff over here. Then he goes to the town over, the whole town falls in love with him, because he gets one or two things right, you know. Okay, he gets 5 things wrong, but he got 1 or 2 things right. Now the whole place is going crazy. They're carrying him on his shoulders, and they bring him back to the original town. And other townspeople are like, "Oh, okay, all right, okay. He must be the truth. He must be. How could he trick so many people? How could it be? It doesn't make sense in logic. Must be logically. We should believe in him. This is how the world works. This is what's going on in the news. Stop watching the news. You know how to throw that in. Everybody believes in this Nash guy. Who are these? Where are these reporters even getting this stuff from? You're there. You were there. You saw what happened? No, but I heard what happened. Who'd you hear it from? Al Jazeera? I was like, we know how it works. It's crazy. But yet, every day, what does it say in the news? What does it say in the news? And we take it as emes. There's beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's emes lamita. We take this stuff as it's emes. That's not das. And then we get convinced and tricked into all these things. Ay, Akopanim. Aval, is that what we're up to? No one even knows anymore. Aval, yesh medina acheres, she'en chashuv sham klal osadavar. Then you have a third type of town. Right? The first type of town, very simple, everybody's believers. Easily, you can trick them. The second type of town, you can't trick them, but then they can get tricked when the other town believes in. Then you have a third type of town. This is the German town. Right, the Ashkenaz, that's what he's about to say. He says, don't try to bring your Muslim to Germany, okay? Germany pre-Hitler. Right, they're very straight. You can't mess with them over there. There's no Muslim, okay, buddy? Take your Muslim and get out of here. They don't believe in this stuff at all. Push it, Narishkeit. Take your Chassidus, take your Muslim, get out of here, okay? You're not going to have any atzlach in that town. If you want to be an imposter, start with the non-German towns and the like. Go to the fluffy towns. So too with the ways, the greatness, the behaviors of the tzaddikim in this Medina. You could take a tzaddik in one place. He's mamish Ramaylich. You can take Ramaylich and go to another Medina, and they don't hold him at all. I don't want to start saying if you take a real Rebbe, a real Chashuv Rebbe, and you put him in the wrong place, could be they won't sit him by the wall, you know. Hey buddy, you can sit in the back. Depending on the place. Kigon Medinas Yishmal. Interesting. He says by the Arab Medinas. Shenekrom Chachamim. They call people Chachamim. Ve'elam osa hanhag v'agdula klal. But even though they're called Chachamim, they have no greatness. There's no proper behaviors by them at all. I think that's what he means. Even though when we call someone a Chacham, it means something. Okay, Medina Zu in these places. Kol mi sherot zalasuk bezeh ulahanig b'derech tzadikim kifi hanog ata hu matzich bezeh. So you come to these places where the tzaddikim have certain anhagas, you could just copy the anhagas, you could mimic them, you could imposter, you could just speak like them, act like them, and then you'll be matzliach. You could trick people again, being a tzaddik. Hashem Yisborach Yigala ha'emes b'mher b'meinu ami. Rabbi Nachman says Hashem should reveal the emes b'mher b'meinu, meaning Rabbi Nachman saw this with imposters, and he says a tefillah because it's so tricky. It's so tricky because they have a little bit of emes to them, right? Even the fake tzaddikim, there's a little bit of emes there because the behaviors that they're being an imposter over, they're emistic. Real tzaddikim did these anhagas, these chumras. Some guy came and took the chumras and started to utilize them. So it looks like this guy's a tzaddik. The problem is we know that the tzaddik makes the hanhaga, not the hanhaga makes the tzaddik. Right? Just because you act like a tzaddik doesn't mean you are a tzaddik. When you are a tzaddik, then everything you do becomes tzidkus. But you can't just take acts of tzidkus and then be called a tzaddik. That's not on the mahus. It's not in the essence of the person. But it's very tricky. And Rabbi Nachman says Hashem should help reveal the emes, the Nakuda Tova in it, just to see, strip it of all of its sheker and just to see the emes. And what gets even more tricky, we'll finish with this line, is b'medina shemiskablim shama mofsim, in a place that they accept these mofsim. Again, we got into the Baal Shem, the mofsim, but this could be any philosophy ism. Right? You can plug anything into this. But if you come to a place that they do believe in this stuff, this is connecting to Samach Beis, the manifesting. If you have a place that believes in Mofsim, they could actually create Mofsim. Meaning these shakranim, these liars and imposters, may actually be able to make a mofes because the people believe in Mofsim. That's dangerous. So now you have a shakran who's not just behaving like a tzaddik, but he actually does some stuff. Now, how do you not believe this guy? Look, he did the thing. He did the thing that nobody else could do. Who's going to think he's a shakran? Right? You have a childless couple. Lo aleinu. And they go to this shakran and they ask him to daven. And he says, do this, do that, kamei this. It's all sheker. The chazal, it's all wrong. But the whole town believes in the Baal Mofis. And the whole town's davening for these people. And lo and behold, they have a child. Now we're very happy. We're very happy. But now this chakran is going to get raised up on a pedestal and people are going to start believing in him. That becomes very, very dangerous. Right? So on one hand, we're the happiest people in the world because this family got a child. On the other hand, we're very, very sad because no one knows even. Now this guy has power. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But the once in a while it does is very tricky. This week's parsha with Bilam. Isn't Bilam a very tricky person? He has kochos like Moshe. He could speak to a Kodesh Baruch Hu at night, right? He has nevuah. He knows Das Elyon, says the pasuk. The Gemara Dar says what that means. Torah says some big things about Bilam. We know he was given a lot of power. But he was an imposter. He was a Baal Tumah. He had a relationship with his donkey. We're talking about the sickest of the sick. But yet, the nations thought he was the grand prophet of all. And Hitaka had powers. This is a dangerous thing. And this can happen. Everything comes into the world is emisdik. It has to come into the world emisdik. But we have to make ourselves proper kalim of das in order that it flows through the das tov. The chasadim come out, not the gevurus, and not the shakranas. And we have to be weary and think carefully about the world, what we see, and understand that everything's a mixture of tov and ra. And there is tov in there. But don't just buy into everything. You have to use your brains. Think. Is this emes? Is this not emes? And if you don't know, speak to someone who you think, that's also you think, who has actual das. Things are not clear. Things are not clear, and sometimes there's big machlokas. And sometimes there's tzaddikim take different sides. But a person has to have das, he has to think himself, and he has to daven to Kodesh Baruch for clarity, for das, to see the emes, and not to get tricked by the overriding ra, and the ra that mimics, and is an imposter, as a klip over the tov. Okay.